Alrighty, guys, and welcome back to the NBL Show presented by Fox Sport. Obviously, back for episode number 3, and a massive shout out to all of the listeners and subscribers who have joined the show over the first couple of episodes, I should say, there as well. But as always, I am joined by my co-host, Mr. Jai Shadlow. Jai, mate, how are you after an incredible weekend of NBL basketball?
Doing well. Like you said, thanks to everyone who's been tuning in so far. We're really enjoying it. Third episode in. Keen to get stuck into some conversations of what we've seen over the round 2. But yeah, let's get stuck into it.
Definitely, mate. And a quick little call to action as well. If you haven't already, go down, subscribe to the Fox Sport Australia YouTube channel, and obviously click the bell as well, and like and comment down below as well. We're reacting to all of the comments and replying to a few of the good ones there as well. So yeah, like we mentioned though, really incredible start to the series. The numbers are great. We really appreciate everyone jumping on. And as always though, make sure you go and check out foxsport.com.au for all of our incredible articles from Jai and myself and the team at Fox Sport as well. They're keeping up to date with everything going on in the NBL and Australian sports as well. But today, we've got a really good episode here, Jai. We're going to be jumping into the wrap-up of round number 2, which we've seen now. Every team in the NBL play basketball. We saw a couple of standout performances, a couple of teams that absolutely choked away, and a couple of teams who bounced back. We now have a new segment as well called Overreaction or Reality, which is a quick little segment which you'll see a bit later on in the show as well. We'll then dive into our round 2 preview with only 4 games on the agenda this week. A very quiet round of NBL action, but obviously the NBA games are on this weekend as well, so that is why. And then we've got our tips and a couple of questions which we put out on social media earlier today as well. But Jai, let's jump in, I guess, to looking at the round that was. And it was a pretty impressive round, to say the least. We saw a couple of big storylines brewing. We saw a massive performance from JaVale McGee, also a vintage performance, I guess we could say, from Bryce Cotton as well. But I'm going to start with JaVale McGee and the Illawarra Hawks. Now, it was a pretty incredible performance by JaVale McGee, to say the least. 32 points in his debut. I believe it's the most points in a debut game that we have seen in the NBL's history as well. He looked absolutely dominant, but I guess the worrying signs for the Illawarra Hawks stem from their lack of, I know in the press that Justin Tatum got asked to comment about their depth, but I still think there's a lack thereof. You know, I don't think the quality of depth this season is as high as it was last season, with Lachlan Aldrich departing, HJ Lee departing. Obviously, you know, you lost Trey Kell, who's an incredible player, Darius Day. So what did you make of that game on Saturday night against the Tasmania Jack Jumpers on banner raising night as well?
Yeah, that's a good one to put there, where you mentioned the banner raising. So it's obviously a bit deflated that they didn't get the win on the night where they raised the banner from the NBL 25 championship. But yeah, I think you put it, you bang on in terms of their depth. It's not great at the moment. Obviously, there's a lot of social media conversations happening that Jaquiri McLaughlin is not up to the standard. And look, we try to be constructive and provide feedback and players and stuff. I don't wish any player to lose their jobs, because at the end of the day, these guys are working, trying to feed families and have a career and stuff. But like, from what I've seen, Jaquiri is not that guy. I don't think he's NBL standard. I did say this on Twitter. I put an asterisk on his six assists he got, purely just because I think 5 of them came from just lobbing it up to a 7'1" player with the biggest wingspan you've ever seen. And it's like, if I got on the court, I reckon I can get at least 2 assists by doing that. And he just looked really hesitant, didn't want to take the shots. And Wiley Bales came off the bench and he looked super energetic and just clearly wanted it more. So I'm not sure what's going on there. But the depth is an issue. And I don't outside of Harvey and McGee, there was no one else who really was a scoring threat.
Yeah, I'm a little bit worried as well with Jaquiri McLaughlin. I think it was 5 points and 6 assists throughout the game, 1 of 8 from the field, 3 of 4 from the line. So again, just not much production, especially from a guy who, in a sense, you've replaced him with Trey Kell, a guy who was a 16, 17 point per game scorer last season, 4 or 5 assists, 4 or 5 rebounds, and a championship winning guard, who also made Tyler Harvey a bit more of a complete player last season as well. And that's the big thing that I think most fans are missing right now. I think they're just sitting there going, we're going to be okay, we're going to be okay, we're going to be okay. I don't think the Illawarra Hawks are going to be okay. There's a reason I tipped them at 13 and 20 this season, because I just don't like the mix right now with Jaquiri McLaughlin and Tyler Harvey. And then obviously people are like, yeah, but we have Will Hickey to come back in. We have Jonah Bolden. Well, I think Will Hickey, I think you spoke about it on the first episode of this show, and you're bang on. His position and his best way to play his game is coming off the bench as that fire starter against the second unit and really
Yep.
pick up the pace and the tempo and score and defend at a high level. So I don't know. I just have a lot of concerns about the Illawarra Hawks. If you can't get up on banner night, where the emotions are high, the crowd was rocking from the opening minutes there. You know, they were doing the Damon Lowry, Illawarra, you know, after they won the championship and everything. It was, the place looked buzzing. And obviously JaVale got going and everything as well. And we've got a question a little bit later in the show. So I'm not going to go too much into JaVale because I want to use some of the stuff for that. But yeah,
Yep.
I just think they're going to struggle this season if they have the current construction of roster going. But I think Ja'Cory McLaughlin is limited. I think his days are limited in the NBL. His play style is limited. I'd love to probably see him as an injury replacement player. It's probably the
Yep.
best position for him if he's going to stay in the NBL. If Tyler Harvey goes down or whoever they bring in at that point guard, shooting guard goes down, you have a guy to bring in. But again, he's just not up to NBL standard. But once again, we're not going to go too much into that. But Melbourne United, I know we copped a bit of smack last week on social media, on X, for not talking about them after their impressive round one performance where they went 2-0. But once again, though, they've delivered another high-quality win against their crosstown rivals, Southeast Melbourne Phoenix. And this game was a little bit of I guess a bit of a seesaw there in that first maybe 2.5 quarters. And then Melbourne United just turned it on in that third quarter, a bit like Brisbane did on the weekend against Geelong as well, and just took over that game and really didn't look back as well. And I think once again, for me, quickly, Jai, before I throw it to you, Melbourne's depth just really gets me excited. You've got
Yep.
Tom Wilson, Dash Daniels, who has been better than advertised. A 17-year-old on this team, on this stage, is just dominating for that age and for the level of experience he has. He is an outstanding player. Fabian Krislovic, obviously one of the guys that you keep a close eye on as well, and absolutely love him coming off the bench as well. He's been a really good performer, and then all of their starters are stepping up in different sort of aspects, and they still have Chris Goulding to come back as well, a top 25 player in the league. So, Jai, mate, floor's over to you. What an impressive sort of round it was for Melbourne United, and impressive start to the season as well.
Yeah, and I'll start on Phoenix because there was a lot of backlash with Josh King's comments saying, essentially he needed his team to man up. Which, depending on your personality and how you go about in life, you take either, some people were insulted by it, some people were just like, whatever, it's not a big deal. I was on like, it's not a big deal. Like, I get what it is, what it is. Like, but my biggest concern with Phoenix is because I was looking at their team stats earlier, and it's John Brown, who came in as a defensive player, is second behind Nathan Sobey for field goal attempts for
Yep.
the season in 2 games. That is not a recipe to win games. Obviously, we know Brown, he's a defensive player. He cannot be, I think he's one field goal attempt behind Sobey at 28, I think. You need that. Obviously, they've got this gap happening now with 2 weeks. They're going to be looking for an import. Has to be a scoring. I think it has to be a scorer, guard, someone who can facilitate as well, and someone who can just take over games a little bit. But right now, Nathan Sobey scored 26 points this game, and the next biggest scorer was John Brown at 12. Outside of that, not much going on. Malik Lewis is not having a great start to the season. He's shooting very poor, which is, it's only 2 games. It'll come. He's a very talented player. But I've seen a lot of people kind of already unsubscribe to the Hunter Maldonado, which is fair enough. They don't think he's the right player at the moment. He only scored 5 points, but he did have 7 assists. But they're a good team. Melbourne United are an elite team. When they went on that 28-13 run in the fourth quarter, you could just tell. And like you mentioned earlier, up until that point, they were neck and neck. But unfortunately, Melbourne United are just too good all-round team. Milton Doyle doesn't need to drop 25 points a game to get this team across the line. They're just so well balanced. They're going to be a very hard team to beat. And as you mentioned before, when Golding comes back, it just adds another tier to them. Looking very scary, but for right now, Phoenix, I think, are okay, but they just need that import, which they'll get now they have a 2-week break. They'll bring it.
I got a quick one for you, though. I think I mentioned this to you after the game, but I personally don't think you can play a whole season as a full court press or even a half court press. I think Josh King is going to try to run these guys into the ground. And
Yeah.
their schedule is pretty rough to start the season. And you're going to pick up some injuries, as every team does, and every team has to start the NBL season. There's been a plethora of injuries to start the season. Do you think, though, the way his play style and the way the roster is constructed, do you think that they can actually make this work as the season goes along, though?
Yeah, I think it's a good shout because anyone who's ever played basketball at any level, you know how exhausting it can be, and playing a full court press requires a lot of fitness. Not everyone has the cardio of Bryce Cotton.
Yep.
And as you mentioned, we are talking about this pre show is after they come back from their NBL weekend and stuff, they have 3 games in 6 days. So we got New Zealand, Adelaide, and Illawarra. That is a big amount of games just for the less than a week in literally 6 days. So that's going to be interesting, and especially if they had the new import by then. But not sustainable. I don't think they can play the full court, half court, full press. But if that's King's outlook on the entire season, like we're not coaches, he knows more than us. But it's just not going to be like you mentioned. There could be injury concern, and yeah, so we'll see how it plays out, but right now it's not looking too great. But again, the import could really take them up a new tier.
Yeah, definitely. I think we can't really judge their team too much, like you said, until we get that another import. But the potential of 3 games in 6 days and potentially starting the season 1-4, there could be some worrying signs for the Southeast Melbourne Phoenix over the next couple of weeks. But speaking of worrying signs handed by the Southeast Melbourne Phoenix, the Cairns Taipans went on to go 2-0 in round number 2, and
Wow.
it was led by, I guess, your main man Jack McVeigh, who I'll throw to you in just a second, but. This surprised me a lot. The game against Brisbane probably wasn't as much of a surprise. I know you were
Yeah.
pretty hot on him, and we'll talk about our tips later on the episode as well, but you tipped the Cairns Taipans. But that game against the Sydney Kings, I watched the highlights, the extended highlights, and a little bit of the game here and there. The way that they were able to be dominated nearly statistically in every category, but still walk away winners in that game was truly incredible. There's just that grit, determination. Adam Ford's comments last week, I know if people may have or may not have seen them, about that. I shouldn't have to get you excited essentially to play games of basketball and have this as a job. If you're a laborer, a chef, a cook, and you perform like that, you lose your job. He put it on his players in the past week, and they really responded with 2-0. And obviously Jack McVeigh was a massive part of that, Jai.
Yeah. So I for the Sydney game, I gave them no hope. I counted
Yeah.
them out so badly just based on looking on paper. Obviously, hindsight, we can say how wrong you were and stuff, but I gave them no hope. Just going up against a Sydney team at home, second game, like that these are all factors for just a team that's not going to win. But that is what I love about basketball, NBL in general. Is just if you have the determination to win, it is amazing how much you can get across the line against a star-studded team like Sydney Kings.
Yeah.
Jack McVeigh was massive. He's obviously in the top 3. Well, I don't want to do MVP rankings this early, but you would put him in the discussion. I was super impressed with Andrew Andrews. The fact that this guy's
Mhm.
flown from America on Wednesday, played his first game, and then he's gone back to back. Now, if you did watch the game, he had major cramping in his right leg. I thought he was like wincing so hard. He was even sitting on the Sydney Kings bench because he just literally had no choice. And then he collapsed. Um, I thought he was done, and then he goes out, gets some pickle juice, comes out, and then he hits a massive 3-point dagger, and that puts him up and nearly seals the game. But he had 16 points, 2 rebounds, 7 assists. And we spoke about this last week. Not many people were excited about the signing after Ashton Hagens departed, or didn't even depart, never actually arrived. Um, and then, but he's EuroLeague. This guy's a veteran. He's played these type of games in EuroLeague, and he's got that dog in him, as I always
Mm.
say. It's just like you can tell he's just got that bit of swag and confidence about him, like semi strutting down the court. And he backed it up. Like he started off a bit slow, but he made some massive shots, some good time plays. I'm excited about this Cairns team, but at the same time, I don't want to I don't want to be that guy and be like, oh yeah, I overreacted and then swing to the other side and they start losing and then be like, I don't want to react. So far, you can only talk about how well they've done, and they're 2-1 for the season. So good on them.
Don't worry though, mate. You're already on the other way already. I think what did you have them 9 and what is it 9 and 20 whatever to finish the season, the ladder predictions though. So
Oh,
they've already got
yeah.
2 of those 9 wins already, and we're only through 2 rounds as well. But yeah, I loved Andrew Andrews. I think when you speak of that dog, it's actually a really funny point because do you remember the hat he rocked up in when he rocked up
Yeah.
in Cairns?
Yeah.
Beware of the dog, right?
Yeah.
That is an introduction to the NBL. I don't
Hmm.
care what it is, and you have to perform after that. And he well and truly performed. And I think he gets a lot of Cairns fans really excited. And one thing as well, I know it's obviously not maybe the diehard Cairns Taipans fans. Maybe it's just the new fans. I saw a few comments though about Sam Wardenberg. Where's Sam Wardenberg? As we spoke about in the first episode, he's out for 3 months with an ankle injury, roughly.
I didn't
So
see that.
he's
I would assume
yeah.
that everyone would know that Waterberg is out for
That's the
three
thing. It
months.
was on a few of the fan pages on Facebook and stuff. I
Okay.
saw it. So yeah, just so everyone knows, Sam will not be back for a few more weeks, a few more months, I should say. But
Late
when he's
December.
back, yeah, when he's back though, this team is really, really exciting. And Marcus Lee, a quick little shout out, just the absolute workhorse that he does defensively and obviously the presence offensively as well. I think he's just a nice little accompli piece to Jack McVeigh as that sort of 4-5 combination, which they're playing at the moment as well. So a really good round by the Cairns Taipans. But speaking of good rounds, I guess we'll wrap up the positives of this roundly wrap up with Bryce Cotton and the Adelaide 36ers. What a performance. 39 points in his debut game with 6 assists and 6 3-pointers made. It's lucky he stepped up because not a lot of other players stepped up for the Adelaide 36ers. It was kind of reminding me in patches yesterday watching the Perth Wildcats over the last few years where it's just kind of been all about Bryce and very Bryce dominating as well. But I'm not going to overreact too much to the lack of production elsewhere. I know Zylan Cheatham was incredible with 8 points and 14 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals and 3 blocks. Maybe it's something similar to that. And Isaac Humphries was relatively solid, but Dejan Vasiljevic only 5 points in his 32 minutes. Isaac White had 10 points off the bench. So the depth around Bryce Cotton wasn't there. But what did you make of the performance, mate? It was a vintage Bryce Cotton performance, I guess you could say, and one that really rubs some salt into the wounds for all the Perth Wildcat supporters.
Yeah, I was actually like on the edge of my seat and getting my fingers ready to post a tweet because I thought Cotton was going to finish on 41 points, and it would have been the perfect title because yesterday was Mark Arena's 41st birthday, and it would have been perfect for Bryce Cotton to score 41 points on the very day. So unfortunately, he didn't get there. He scored 39. But yeah, it looked great. Obviously, he shot really efficiently, 14 for 23. The other concerns with the other players, like Cheatham still had 14 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 steals. The DJ factor, like 2 for 9, not a big deal. There's going to be games where he drops 20 points. It's just Mike Wells has to work out that, you know, where are the shots coming from? And then they got the new import coming in this week, which I'm hearing he'll be playing off the bench a bit
Yep.
as well. So it's just there's only so many shots that can go around. So we'll see what happens. But you can't. Cotton's that's the best debut you could ask for. And so it's going to be great. So we'll see how 36ers actually go around molding that around because I do get a bit concerned with DJ sometimes because I feel like this is just my speculation how I view it. It's just like maybe sometimes he feels like he's being forgotten, and that's the worry I get further going into the season where he's just like the man coming into Adelaide. Now Bryce Cotton's come and he might be a bit forgotten, and that might result in him taking more desperate shots because he just wants to get a shot up.
Yep.
But we'll see what happens. But I thought Humphries looked good. And outside of Cotton, I thought the most impressive was Flynn Cameron. I thought he looked really good. Really, really played that point guard role really well. Tied his career high for 4 assists. I know it's not a lot, but like first game as an Adelaide 36er, only played the 23 minutes. But he looked really fluid. And I'm really excited to see what he can do.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how their offense develops. And, you know, obviously with this new import coming in, they've still got the capabilities of signing another import as well later on in the season or whenever they see fit. So there's a lot of flexibility for the Adelaide 36ers. I just think on the offensive end, there's some concerns because I think there's always concerns when you just become very one-man centric, which is what we saw with the Perth Wildcats there for a number of seasons. I think obviously it's very good regular season basketball, but once you get into the playoffs and you have guys like Shayley, you have guys, you know, who are really solid defenders like Wani Swaka-Labulik, who maybe have a bit more size, they can lock down that one guy. And then it comes down to, does the rest step up or does the rest falter? And that's where you can win or lose an NBL championship or a championship series as well. So that's going to be the big concern. But let's get to the negatives for the round, Jai. And I guess there's probably no bigger than the New Zealand Breakers and then probably just followed behind by the Brisbane Bullets as well. I'm going
Yeah.
to go to you first, though. I want you to unleash a little bit here because there's been a bit of drama going around the Brisbane Bullets camp, and in particular Stu Lash, who has copped some pretty, I guess, I don't want to say harsh criticism because there is some warrant to, I guess, some of the criticism around him. But I'm going to throw the floor to you here, Jai, because you got an article coming out today. It might already be out by the time this episode is out, but floor's over to you, mate. Stu Lash and the Brisbane Bullets. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I'll actually start with a quick positive in the fact that they only lost by 7 points to Adelaide at Adelaide. That's pretty impressive, but I'm not sure how you look at it in terms of is that Adelaide just, not first game, not gelling together, and they just
Yep.
underplayed. And they have Sam McDaniel's out, Javon Freeman Liberty's out, Mitch Norton's out. So, I'll give him that. The issue is, and if you've been watching the games, and this is fairly, common criticism what I've seen on social media, and if people have seen, former NBL champion Mark Worthington, he's been very, very vocal on Twitter about Stu Lash. I just don't know what he's doing in terms of coaching because he's made even the commentators made Gazy made a comment saying like, why is he bringing Tyrell Harrison out 4 minutes to go? Harrison just got back to back baskets, was on 17 points, 13 rebounds, down 10, 4 minutes to go, and he's bringing out Tyrell. And Andrew Gaze is a go. He was just like, what is going on here? And there is a comical segment during the broadcast in the first game where Stu Lash is on the bench and he's just telling the guys to pass the ball, which is just like, obviously, like this is not coaching. You're just saying. And then he made the comment in the post-match press conference where he's just like, oh, I don't care who brings the ball up, like as long as someone's bringing it up and stuff. I'm just like, that's not. I don't think you understand. Like, I'm not a coach. Like, I've coached under 12 basketball, which is not even close to NBL. So Stu Lash has that on me. But just some questionable things. And then during timeouts, the assistant coaches are the ones doing all the talking. And Stu Lash, and I made a tweet yesterday. He just, made the tweet of like, in those games where you see smart ass players like going up in the huddle of other teammates just to listen in what they're doing. That's honestly, that's how I see Stu Lash. He's just like, I feel like he shouldn't be there and he's just eavesdropping. But he's a nice guy, and that's what I hate watching the post-match press conferences because he's actually like a soft-spoken dude, and he's clearly like he looks like a nice guy. So I feel a bit bad. But he needs that Andrew Andrews dog. I need Andrew Andrews to send him a hat, and he needs to wear that dog hat and just release that inner dog, and just be like be a bit more aggressive. So like 3 games in, the issue is before I end this tangent is they have a really tough fixture coming up. Like the next 4 games, I'm pretty sure they got Tassie, Illawarra. I know they have United in like 3 or 4 games. They could genuinely be 1-6 by the end of round 5, and then that conversation will start. It has to. Is Stu Lash right for the job? So it's a big stretch coming up. So we'll see how they go.
Yeah, it's really tough because like you've got to give him enough time to find his feet as a coach. And, there's one thing of being a coach on the day-to-day life, because I guess like when you're doing it training and stuff, it's more drills, not really much about X's and O's. It's more just about getting the players accustomed, figuring out their strengths, their weaknesses, and then going from there. But once you hit game day, the dynamic changes a lot. Like I coached local footy a few years ago, and the dynamic changes from when you're in game day, you're having to make real-time decisions, not just this structured program which you've made yesterday or the day before at training. It's like, okay, I need to move this player down there. This player needs to go on him. Okay, he needs to come off. He needs to, and you've got to constantly be thinking. And I think that's where he's getting a little bit stuck right now. And that takes a few weeks to get used to the change in momentum, the change in games, and how you sort of figure out, okay, it's not all about rest right now for that particular player. He's playing really, really well, like you speak about with Tyrell Harrison. Leave him out there for another 5 minutes and let's continue to feed him and dominate with him. And then we bring him off for a few minutes and put him back on. Now, I have a quick joke here, and I've said to you off air, I'm a little bit scared to go with it, but it's about Stu Lash. Now, what does Stu Lash have in common with an armless waiter, Jai?
What does Stu Lash have in common with an armless waiter?
He can't bring anything to the table, my friend. He can't bring anything to the table, okay? And that's what we're seeing at the moment, right? With obviously his assistants having to take over, like you mentioned, these huddles, and everything as well.
Yeah.
I honestly reckon if he could give the press conferences away to his assistant coaches at the moment, he probably would. I just think
Yes.
he's just very nervous of how everything is going. So I'm a little bit concerned for Brisbane, like you are. I was very hot on them at the start of the season. I'm not jumping off them just yet. Their players are very, very good. They've copped a few unfortunate injuries to start the season as well. But again, I think there's a lot of work to do. Now, we've gone a little bit over time on this wrap up, but I'm going to quickly just breeze past the New Zealand Breakers as well. They are looking very concerning. 0 of 3 now, choked a 12-point lead to Perth, a 15-0 run to start the fourth quarter. Then they gave a 15-0 run to the Perth Wildcats, and that's what won the Perth Wildcats the game. Now, you've been very big on this to me in private conversations, and it's a very, very good point. Rob Baker, Isaiah Brockington, 2 of your 3 star imports, or who should be stars for your particular team, just aren't getting the minutes or the opportunity. Now, I don't know if it's because of the trust of Coach Petteri Koppinen, or if he is just looking at certain players who he's seen either dominate him last season in the NBL. I look at Rob Lowe. Rob Lowe should not be playing more minutes or starting over Rob Baker. Rob Baker, I get it. All right. There's concerns about his 3-point shooting. He's a more of a 3-point bunny than he is an inside player. You have Sam Menenga. You can kind of use them as the versatile 4-5 combination. One goes in, one goes out, and you can switch it every single time. I think it's a very good little weapon to have in your back pocket. But for him to only play 12 minutes against the Perth Wildcats with Christian Doolittle, Dylan Windler going off the chain with 15 rebounds, and also Joe Lawala-Chul inside, major alarm bells are ringing for me. We're speaking about Ja'Cory McLaughlin potentially getting shipped off over the next few weeks. I think if this doesn't change and the minutes don't change, he may want to walk himself out of the door at the moment at the New Zealand Breakers as well. So that's a concerning factor. And then Isaiah Brockington. I know he probably wasn't having the best game, but he had 5 shots in this game against the Perth Wildcats.
Can't have
This is a
that.
guy who averaged 20 points per game in the NBL Blitz. And again, the Blitz doesn't mean a lot, but he's shown that he can be one of the better scorers in the NBL if given the ball. But to him to only have 5 points, 5 field goal attempts, and 2 rebounds in only 19 minutes of game time is disappointing. So I know obviously we've been speaking about Petteri Koppinen, and we're not going to go too much into it again and keep flogging the dead horse. I know you've been very vocal on him not looking like he's going to last very long in the NBL or wanting to continue in the NBL. I'm well and truly on the same boat as well. I think if things don't change very quickly, we will not see Petteri Koppinen in the NBL for too much longer. But let's jump into the next segment, Jai. Now, if you haven't seen it, Injury Insiders is a weekly column that Jai writes at foxsport.com.au, keeping everyone up to date with all the injury reports. This is a great thing because there is no one in the NBL space, and I repeat, no one in the NBL space doing what Jai is doing with the Injury Insider segment as well. So, Jai, mate, let's run through some of these injuries that you've got listed here, and we'll just, briefly run through some of these. There's a couple of them that I kind of want to talk about because they're kind of big injuries, but yeah, mate, floor's yours.
Yeah, so obviously you mentioned that there's no really transparency, and there really hasn't been like a RotoWire type NBA injury column. So that's what I'm trying to provide, is just update it every week to give everyone some insight of like where players are, how they're going and stuff. So I'll do my best to update that and do a weekly post. So this week we'll start off with, if you watch the game, Javon Freeman Liberty rolled his ankle in a game-winning attempt layup, and it looked pretty nasty. Obviously sat out a game against Adelaide. As of right now, it looks like he will suit up for their next game. So it didn't look too nasty, and he managed to walk it off and everything. So that's good. Mitch Norton, now last week we obviously knew he did his knee. It's now confirmed that Tad Duffelmeyer has come in as an injury replacement player, and Norton will be out for 8 weeks. So that's good that he's going to play again this season. I've got an update on Will Hickey. Is the eye concern? It's week to week, but like, it has been speculated it'll be at least a month out, but right now I think they're just assessing it week by week, and so I don't know when he's going to return. I don't think he'll return for the next game. So I'll try and keep you updated on that. Sam McDaniel did his ankle at 3 minutes into the game against Cairns, and I just, shat myself. I just got flashbacks from last season where he played 3 minutes and did his shoulder and ended the season. But it looks like he is fine to come back next week as well. David Johnson, which is a massive one, is out. He injured his lower leg, and he had scans, and then this is during training as well. And so this means he's going to be out up to 4 weeks or more. So I am hearing that Tasmania might be looking for a temporary replacement, but we'll see how that goes. And then one that you actually highlighted to me, because I actually missed it, was Magic Deng for Tasmania did his hamstring.
Yep.
So I think the comment you were saying, the commentators thought it was a bit of a cramping issue, but with the hamstring, the area he was grabbing, you don't agree with that?
No, I don't think so. It looked quite high up where he's grabbing. That's when typically when you do a hammy, I've done a few of them in my time, but typically if you grab low, it's normally I don't know. There's not many chance that you get a cramp in your hamstring. You
Yeah,
sometimes can get them, but it's very rare. If you
yeah,
grab low, maybe it is a cramp. If you grab higher, which is kind of where he was grabbing, it's typically a tear. Now, typically your
yeah.
tears are looking at least 2 to 4 weeks out of the game, depending on the grade of the tear as well. So yeah, it didn't look too good. He was quite, yeah, he kept grabbing at it quite a bit. So I don't know. I don't think it was a cramp at all, mate. I think it's a genuine tear.
Yeah, okay, and that would be concerning because that's 4 weeks out as well. And
Yep.
Josh Bannon actually injured his left hand as well during that game, and he did come back and play it out. But that is probably one to look at. And so that's currently what the injuries are like at the moment. So I'll update the page as well, and so people can keep track of them all. But I'm hopefully that half of these guys we just mentioned should be back for the next round.
Yeah, massive though. When you look at it, you've got 3 Brisbane Bullets and you've got
Yeah,
potentially 3 Tasmania Jack Jumpers as well.
yeah.
The David Johnson one's interesting. What is a lower leg? Is it an ankle? Like
I don't
that's
know.
that's the way I look at it. Is it an ankle fracture? Is it an ankle ligament? Is it a ligament? Connecting the leg to the ankle as well. I don't hope I hope it's not the syndesmosis type injury, and maybe that's why they're
Yeah.
looking for an injury replacement because it could be 4 weeks, but it also could be 12 weeks depending on how he rehabs and heals. So again, so
Mhm.
many more concerns to come out of it. But like we mentioned, though, Injury Insider, foxsport.com.au, Jai's weekly column that'll be updating as well. It's a really, really good read. And like we mentioned as well, no one else in the NBL is doing anything like that as well. But new segment, Jai. We did 5 segments in 5 minutes last week. Now we've got overreaction or reality this week. Now, again, very short little segment, but a couple of different talking points. So I'm going to kick it off with you, mate, and then you got a couple of questions for me, and I've got a question for you as well. So the first, overreaction or reality. Stu Lash isn't an NBL coach.
Um, this is a tough one. I'm kind of on the fence because it might contradict what we were saying earlier, how we we have to give him time and stuff. But for right now, I'm gonna say it is a reality.
Yep.
But that could change with time as he grows with the role and stuff. But as of right now, I think that's a reality. I don't think he's up to coaching standards in the NBL.
Perfect, mate. All
Yeah.
righty. All
So,
right, mate.
my turn. Let's have a crack at this. Do you think the Sydney Kings cannot win the NBL championship?
Yeah, this is a genuine overreaction. A part of me would love to say this is reality, just because I, have sort of been quite hot on them missing, being a genuine title contender. But it's a genuine overreaction. First game of the season against the Cairns Taipans. I think you put a stat out there as well on your X at NBL Player about Kendrick Davis's most field goal attempts, 26, something like that as well, and only 2 assists in that particular game. So that's a bit of a worry for me. Maybe they're going through Dellavedova too much, or maybe just Kendrick Davis is trying to play a little bit too for himself. But I think they'll be completely fine. They've got enough depth. I think they've still got to go out and get an NBL big man,
Yeah.
whether that's an import or a better local, which is going to be hard to find. But I don't think we can rule them out of being a genuine title contender in NBL 26 just yet. But Jai,
They're not going to shoot
you're
4 for 28 from deep as well every
nah,
game.
that's it. Nah, 100%. But your one though here, Jai, the last one. We're only doing 2 each in this particular segment. Overreaction or reality? The Cairns Taipans will make the top 6.
That is the biggest overreaction I've ever heard.
Oh, you about to say reality there? I was like, whoa, here we go.
No, that is an overreaction. And I know there are some Cairns Taipans fans who will be listening and they'll absolutely blast me. Bring it on. I think that's an overreaction. They beat a Brisbane team that's clearly not good by 1 point. I'll give them props. They got smashed by Southeast Melbourne Phoenix. Don't seems people have forgotten that they lost by nearly 50 points. And props to them for the Sydney game. And I know I'm going to get flack for this, but I feel like it was more Sydney lost the game than Cairns won it because their shooting was so bad and it was their first game. But Cairns wanted it more and they fought for it, so they earned that right. The issue is they have now Adelaide next, Perth, Melbourne, Adelaide again, and then Perth in the next 5 games. So come to me after round 6, and if they're, what are they, 2-1 now? They could be 2-6, 2-7. Then awesome. I look awesome. If they somehow win two out of those 5 games, the big names and stuff, I'll eat my hat. But right now, I think that's the biggest overreaction.
Nice, mate. Last
All
one.
right, so your last one is JaVale McGee as your best player is a worry for the Illawarra Hawks.
Yeah, I think this is a reality. This was one of my big talking points over at the article on foxsport.com.au about JaVale McGee being your best player is a genuine worry for the Illawarra Hawks. Now, albeit 32 points was incredible. I think he had 13 rebounds to go with it as well, 3 blocks. He was outstanding. As good as a debut game you can ever have. But for me, if he's your best player and your highest scorer and your biggest impact player, there's a bit of a worry. It needs to be Tyler Harvey or somebody else. They need that Trey Kell type player, a facilitating big-bodied guard who can take the best defender and allow Tyler Harvey to take on the second best defender at that guard position night in, night out. And that is the big concern for me. They played okay, right? But without JaVale, they weren't even in that game. So, he was clearly their best player and they were still a little bit behind. I know first game, they've got to work into the season. I get all of that, but he cannot be your best player on a championship contending team because it's just outdated. Back in the day, the early 2000s, we saw big men dominating the NBA and world basketball and winning NBA championships and championships around the world. Nowadays, it's all about your guards. It's all about your guards and your forwards, not your big men. They're just the guys who can just defend and block shots inside and maybe get up here and there for an alley-oop or whatever the case is. So, they cannot win an NBL championship with JaVale McGee.
I'll just add to that and if people watch the McGee perform, absolutely dominated. When Kobe Williamson was on, it was genuinely scary how much he just murdered that kid. He dropped so much down that I guarantee you when they play Perth next, Perth will be hitting 10 threes on this team because that's for me is a genuine concern. And teams are going to be watching the footage of that game and being like, right, we know how JaVale plays. Look what they were getting a lot. He was obviously playing posts a lot, but he was just cooking a lot of the backup bigs. Like Majok was getting murdered because he's got like 30 kilos on Majok. And then I mentioned Kobe Williamson and stuff. He's going up against JLA and Christian Doolittle next. And Dylan Windler and Mason Jones are going to be hitting a lot of threes just because JaVale dropped so far down. And that is going to be the big concern for me is like Tasmania are not a good 3-point shooting team. So they're going to go up against Perth next game. And so that will be a real good insight to see how they react and transition with that McGee on the roster.
You dead set just got every Perth fan excited with that comment there, mate, with Mason Jones. Choking on my own dry mouth here, though. But we will move on and we will go from there as well, obviously, overreactions or reality. Now, let's jump into round 2 preview. Now, I guess the big question, does New Zealand get their first win this week? That is probably the biggest question heading into round number 3. And obviously, on that as well, does Coach Pedri Coppinen continue his coaching journey at the New Zealand Breakers as well? But 4 games this round. So we have 4 games of NBL action, but 2 exciting games of NBL NBA action as well. The New Orleans Pelicans taking on Melbourne United and the Southeast Melbourne Phoenix, which Jai will be attending as well. So if you see him around, make sure you get a photo and have a bit of a chat to him as well and have a bit of fun there as well. It's going to be a very, very exciting event. But for me, though, looking at the actual NBL this week, the big game is the Illawarra Hawks and the Perth Wildcats. And you started speaking about it there. JaVale McGee, obviously what that could do to the Perth Wildcats. Joe Lawala-Chul. That battle is going to be very, very exciting. Both really big guys and very, very athletic as well. They can run up and down the court all night. Now, JaVale's problem for me, and I spoke about this to you as well, is his substitution pattern's a little bit worrying for me. He plays 2 or 3 minutes and runs his heart out and then comes off for a minute or 2 and then goes back on again. But when he comes back on again, though, he goes up against that backup big man, which is where you saw him, like you mentioned, dominate against the Tasmania Jack Jumpers. I think the Perth Wildcats, now knowing that, are going to sort of, use the substitutions to their advantage as well and constantly have, like you mentioned, a Christian Doolittle or Joe Lawala-Chul on him at all times. Yep. And that is going to be where the game is going to be won or lost, because I think the Perth Wildcats personally can hold Tyler Harvey to 15 points because he is, once again, your only option on offense when you're looking at star quality and a guy who can win you a game. You stop Tyler Harvey, and you got to make every other person on your team win games. Ja'Cory McLaughlin, I have no concerns about. Stick Ben Henschel on him. That's his defensive assignment for the night. He's not a great defender, but put him on that and just hold him to 5 points and a couple of assists, and you've won the game even more. So that's where that game is going to be won for me. And when you're looking at it as well, the Illawarra Hawks could start the season 0-2. And the Perth Wildcats, though, if they lose this game, could start 1-2 as well. So there's a bit of going in this as well. I know we're speaking about obviously 2 losses and whatever the case is, but we know how short this season is and how important it is to get early wins. So what do you reckon of this game, mate? I know you've spoken about it briefly there, but what are some of your thoughts around the game, and who do you think actually gets the win in this particular one as well?
Yeah, I think you're bang on with the whole rotations for Perth Wildcats. So that's going to be a big one in terms of, like you mentioned, JLA. I think when McGee goes off, JLA goes off. When McGee comes on, JLA comes back on. That's just going to be constant. And then if you take McGee out of the picture, who's going to step up? Like, Harvey cannot do it all. Like, he shot 8 for 22, and I'm pretty sure he hit 1-3 against Tasmania. And they're playing at the RAC Arena. It's just, it's going to be interesting. Like, they need that better import. They need a better scorer because, Harry Froling, as awesome as it is to see him come back, there were issues against the game. Like, he was not running back as quick as I had hoped. Got a bit angry and stuff, a bit flustered early on. Did hit a big 3 and stuff, which is, that's positive signs. But it's just, it's a bit concerning at the moment. And I really think the conversation around Mason Jones, don't get anyone wrong in terms of, is Mason Jones ready for this league? Important stuff. This guy will eventually get to a point where we start discussing he's an MVP. Okay, ignore that last game. Don't be surprised in this game he drops 25 points. That's the big issue with Illawarra. So I'm tipping that Perth's going to win by 15 plus this game.
Massive. I want to just put a quick little disclaimer there as well with Mason Jones. I believe it's 8 training sessions he's had with the Perth Wildcats. 2 of those games he played, one of the games he played, it was the Japan series as well. And then we've obviously seen him suit up in the first 2 rounds as well. So he's played 4 games, 3 actual sort of meaningful games, and then 1 obviously preseason game and 8 training sessions. Not a lot in the grand scheme of things. Like we've spoken about, it's going to take roughly a month for him to probably accustom himself to the smaller court, obviously the different play style, a new team, everything that goes with it as well. So hold your horses on the Perth Wildcats and in particular Mason Jones. But again, like we see down below right here, do New Zealand get their first win? The simple answer is no. 0-4 will be the start of their season. They're coming up against the Sydney Kings. And this is the matchup that I think the Kings need, just to kind of come in, dominate a game. Jalen Galloway running down the court, Kawat Noi, they've got this depth and this bench so they can really overrun and overpower the New Zealand Breakers. And then obviously you've got Kendrick Davis, Tim Suarez, Xavier Cooks, Matthew Dellavedova. This is going to be a whitewash. Speaking of 15 plus, load up on this one. This is going to be well and truly a massive margin when you're looking at it in the grand scheme of things as well. So are you on the same board as me, Matt? I think 20 plus this particular game, easy.
Yeah, I'm concerned. Like, I really worried about Coach Kopp's stress levels at the moment because he does look stressed. And I mentioned this last week. I feel like there's pressure on him now from management. I feel like Judd Flavel is kind of behind the scenes going like, it's my turn soon and I think Kopp, this is the vibe I get. I think sometimes Kopp just he just looks burnt out and over it. He's just like, I'm done with this. Like, I don't know what is going on behind management, but he clearly there's something going on where he's just like, I'm just going to drop it and just go back home. Like, I'm over this. But that's just what I think. Again, you mentioned Sydney are going to bounce back. Jalen Galloway, it's kind of ironic that he's doing his best 3-point shooting ever, dominated Asian Cup, like his best 3-point shooting's form change. First game of the season, shoots 0 for 4 from 3. Like, that's just how it is. It's not going to happen. He only scored 3 points in 17 minutes. It's not going to happen again. He will perform. Kendrick Davis will not shoot 27 field goal attempts again. They'll mix and match. And unfortunately, New Zealand are going to be the victims of Sydney's recouping and getting, their bounce back. So Breakers, I'm very worried. I don't think they're going to win a game for a little while. And that probably is my quick comment in terms of, I think Rob Baker or Kopp might be the first person or player let go because of performance. Like, put them behind Stu Lash. I think it's one of those two are going to leave because of the results and the team's performance early on in the season.
Yeah, it's disappointing. Like this team
It
had a lot
is.
of potential, and they've had the rebrand and I guess the back to black, like we mentioned as well. So yeah, disappointing signs obviously for the New Zealand Breakers, and it's going to be one to keep an eye on. I think they'll get a win either next week or the week after, but still that's a long time. Not this week, obviously, the week after that. But yeah, a long time to sort of go into that as well. But let's jump into some of the questions from the fans as well from round number 2. Now, the first one here, we're going to breeze through these as well, end with the tips as we're running out of time very, very quickly. But the playlist guy has asked, any concerns for the Kings? Because that's a game they should haven't have lost.
I love how you say "cuz." That's the game.
What do you reckon, Jai?
Nah, we just spoke about it. Nah, they're
Yeah.
fine. Like everyone will say, Brian Goorjian's past it, which is a very common theme throughout the last season as well. Andrew Bogut is on the bench, so I think they're fine. Like he's managing that team as well as assistant coach. They'll bounce back. First game of the season, it's not a big deal. Perth did the same thing. They're looking better now. It's totally fine.
Now, the second question here is from Curti. He's asked, should the Jack Jumpers consider getting some big man depth somehow, some way? When Kobe Williamson was on, it really showed how light the big man bench is. Magnay is already producing record minutes, and Fabian Krislovic has left a massive hole. I'm going to take this one quickly, Jai. I think they have to, but I don't think they can.
I agree.
So I'm not sure. I think they've left the run way too late. I just don't think there's anyone out there. You've seen what the Sydney Kings have had to produce with obviously that big man backup guy. They went out and got Hunter Goodrick. Now, Hunter's a relatively solid NBL 1 player, but he's not an NBL player. So, you may get someone who's slightly better than Kobe Williamson, but you're going to have to basically cut a guy like Kobe Williamson, who you might want to, continue to develop as the years go on. I think, though, Archie Woodhill has the potential to be a very solid big backup in the NBL. I think he just needs a bit more confidence and maybe just a bit more time on the court. We know big men take a lot longer to develop than other players on the field. But yeah, I just think it's going to be a little bit of a concern for the Jack Jumpers if, again, Bannon goes down, Magnay goes down, and you're left with Kobe Williamson.
I don't want to be the guy that says like I do not condone like injuries and stuff. Obviously, we don't. Like, I don't want that to happen. But got to look at the data. Josh Bannon has spent his career injury prone. Magnay came off 13 games last season. Like it's not. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it's concerning that if one of them goes down, they are royally effed in terms of the big man spot.
100%, mate. And the last one here as well, Brendan Crabb. How serious is Hickey's eye injury, which we spoke about earlier, looking as a week to week and roughly a month potentially out? And how badly was he missed on Saturday night, Jai? We kind of spoke about this earlier, but again, I'll get you to answer this one for Brendan.
Yeah, just quickly, like the Hickey injury, obviously, it's pretty concerning if it's warranting this amount of time. He hasn't played in over a month in any competitive basketball.
Yep.
He is very missed because they need that spark. But while he provided that spark very well, he had a very good game, 2 blocks, which is the most he's ever had ever. And so, yeah, you need Hickey back, but he's not the pure scorer they need. He's not going to be dropping 20 points a game, but he is very missed. So, yeah, we'll see what happens. I don't think he's going to play next week, but they need him back desperately.
Yeah, definitely, mate. But thank you very much for all your questions as well. And we will answer plenty more as the season goes along as well. I think we should do maybe, can you do a live stream on X? I think you can, hey?
I think you can. I was looking at that because I would like to do a live stream during a game.
I think we should look to do that over the next couple of weeks, and we'll answer as many questions as we possibly can and sit down and watch a game together and just have, that sort of Dan does footy sort of impact, I guess, on the NBL community. It'll be really, really fun. But we'll think about that and we'll brainstorm over the next few weeks. Once again, though, thank you to the playlist guy, Curti and Brendan, for your questions.
Thank
and once
you,
again, keep sending them in and we will get to as many of them as we can over the season. Now, to wrap up the episode, tips of the round, mate. We haven't got a player as of right now, but we will post this on social media throughout the week. Currently, the leaderboard stands. The players and I are on 7, and Jai has taken the lead with 8 last week, mate. You got one up on me. I believe it was the Cairns Brisbane Bullets game. Really, really impressive tip there, my friend. But let's have a look at this week. It's pretty stock standard across the board. In the first
4 games, unfortunately.
Yeah, but it's the big 4, I guess you can look at it as well. The first game, we've tipped Adelaide. The second game, we have tipped Perth. The third game, we have tipped Sydney, and the fourth game, we have tipped Tasmania. It's going to be interesting as the season goes along, though, with the scores, and if they're relatively close, we'll start to take a few gambles, I guess, on a few games as well. But like I mentioned, though, it's most likely going to be a Southeast Melbourne Phoenix player. So we'll get them out to you guys whenever we can and update the leaderboard on our X accounts as well. But as always, though, thank you very much for joining us on the NBL show presented by Fox Sport. A little bit of a longer one today, but so much to talk about in the NBL. I know, like we spoke about it throughout the round, there are just so many storylines and big moments and news stories and everything going on in the NBL this season. I know it's the biggest and the best NBL season we've probably ever seen, but it's probably going to be the biggest and best in terms of drama, storylines, and everything going on as well. So, Jai, mate, over to you, mate. You want to finish the wrap up of the show as well?
Yeah, so again, thanks everyone. It's our third episode. We're getting more comfortable and enjoying it, obviously. So just keep sending those questions in. And if you want not just questions, but like stuff to talk, if we've missed something like some category or that's happened over the weekend, let us know. We're happy to speak on anything. Like we don't kind of hold back. Like I'll be as honest as I can without being a dick.
Yep.
And yeah, so just keep listening in, and throughout the season, we'll definitely get some live show going on. I reckon that'll be really cool, and
Yep.
trying to get this as engaging as possible. So yeah,
No, definitely, mate. And obviously, most importantly as well, make sure you go and check out foxsport.com.au as well for all the latest NBL news. Like we mentioned, injury news, obviously big storylines, there's talking points, burning questions, there's power rankings coming out soon as well. There's so much there's so much going on at Fox Sport this season as well. So until next time, though, this has been the NBL show presented by Fox Sport, and we'll see you next week.